Schramsberg produces the best sparkling wine in California. End of story. It all began when Jakob Schramm left Germany and became one of the pioneers of winemaking in the Napa Valley. Indeed, the very first winemakers in Napa were all European immigrants, mainly from Germany and Italy. Many of them had grown up in winemaking families, and they knew that hillsides could produce some of the very finest wines. Over the years, Jakob Schramm became a successful vintner, garnering recognition and winning a loyal clientele for his wines. He built a labyrinth of underground cellars and a beautiful Victorian mansion, hallmarks of the property today. But when Prohibition struck, the business closed, and it wasn't until 1965 when the doors would finally reopen.
My parents, Jack and Jamie Davies, came to Napa Valley in 1965, and they would revive the Schramsberg property. Their focus was to make a world-class sparkling wine in California. Up until that time, no one had used Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, so the classic two French champagne varieties. And so their thought was there was a niche, there was an opportunity, and if they were to make that step, to use those varietals, to go through the classic bottle fermented process, they would make extraordinary sparkling wine here. Mind you, there was very little Chardonnay or Pinot Noir grown in California to begin with. We think of 100 acres of Chardonnay, something like that, in 1965. Today in California, 100,000 acres. That's probably the single biggest difference between what life was like then and what it is like now.
The Davies spent time in France studying at the top champagne houses and then brought their knowledge back to California. Gradually, they built a reputation as the producers of the best sparkling wine in America, which was formally recognized at a landmark historical event.
U.S. President Richard Nixon visited China in February of '72, and he was the first American leader to ever go to China. My parents did not know when it happened that it was going to happen, but they had delivered 13 cases of Blanc de Blanc to an Air Force base out here near Sacramento. And 3 weeks later, they found out from a friend who was watching the Today Show one morning, turn on the television, Jack and Jamie, Barbara Walters has just explained that the Schramsberg Blanc de Blanc was served in Beijing, China by President Nixon to Chow Enlai. Big deal. 6 months later, the knock on the door comes from the nice people from Shandong. Hello, Mr. Davies and Mrs. Davies. You make a wonderful product, and we would like to buy your winery. And so my parents were definitely not interested in selling, but very shortly thereafter, in that next year, '73, Domaine Shandong started.
The toast to peace in China, as it was so called, catapulted the sales of Schramsberg. A prestige brand was born, and the wine has been served at the White House over 100 times since then. But this historic event also helped attract the attention of the Champenois, who understood that California had the terroirs to produce exceptional quality sparkling wine. No doubt, the beautiful cellars at Schramsberg reminded the French of their own underground cellars, which are the ideal conditions to store wine due to the consistently cool temperatures year-round. For all of the hard work and success of the Davies family at Schramsberg, people sometimes wonder whether or not California can actually produce better sparkling wine than champagne. There have been many occasions when this was put to the test.
One such moment was 3 or 4 years ago when we had, I believe it was 22 Masters of Wine here in Napa Valley, and a blind tasting was staged. MWs are pretty educated folks, of course, and their palate should be quite sophisticated. But a blind tasting was staged with 6 French champagnes and 6 of the best made here in California, sparkling wines. And when the ballots were cast, the favorite wine was actually the 1999 J. Schramm, so a couple of vintages older than this one. That was pretty exciting. The French champagnes are the benchmarks, of course, of quality. You know, people assume that, oh, French champagne's got to be great. I kid them though that we may have a better place to grow the fruit here. You know, typically we're picking the fruit a little bit riper than they would in Champagne. There's no chaptalizing, so we'll never add sugar to the base juice. We start out with plenty of acidity, often a bit more than you would have in Champagne. So I feel very fortunate, very lucky. I didn't start it here, my parents did, but I'm happy to be able to continue on with what they started.